Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week, I predicted the number 1 would be Deadpool and Wolverine, number 2 would be Trap, number 3 would be Twisters, number 4 would be Harold and the Purple Crayon, and number 5 would be Despicable Me 4. And wow, what I thought would be like, if I, miss a couple, that's fine, whatever. It turns out I only got 1 out of 5 of my predictions right for this weekend. A couple movies had better staying power than I expected. Some movies flipped around. And then, of course, in the case of Harold and the Purple Crayon, this thing, and I already went in making the prediction with low expectations. Like, I don't think it's going to do well. It didn't even place in the top 5. Got so close. And I honestly, it's kind of close with like what actually got into number 5. Kind of close. Emphasis on kind of. I don't even think when the official numbers come out tomorrow, I don't even think it's going to get in there, genuinely, like, Jesus. And of course, nobody else got their predictions right for this weekend. Not all of you predicted that Harold would make it into the top 5, but, the order got a little mixed up. So let's just dive into what happened in the overall top 10. So number 1 was, once again, Deadpool and Wolverine, and that was kind of the big question for me. Was obviously it's going to be number 1 again, but how well is it going to hold over? Sometimes with these, it doesn't have to be necessarily comic book movies, big budget movies. They will have a front-loaded opening weekend, but depending on either word of mouth or just, it's a front-loaded opening weekend, it could drop off in like maybe the 60s, Not the case with this one. It was a little over 50%, but it did not get into 60s territory. So a pretty solid hold nonetheless. It made $97 million this 3-day weekend. That now adds to a domestic total of $395 million. Before we go into any like MCU or X-Men rankings, we do have another record breaker here. It has outgrossed The Passion of the Christ domestically by $25 million. Now that's important because here in the States, The Passion of the Christ was the highest grossing film to have an R rating. Deadpool and Deadpool 2 kind of came close, didn't really make it. But Deadpool and Wolverine, here we are. It is officially the highest grossing R-rated film domestically of all time. And then when you get to the worldwide numbers, sitting at $824 million right now, it has outgrossed what previously was the highest grossing R-rated film worldwide, which was Deadpool 2, by $38 million. So, in 2 weekends, it is the highest grossing R-rated film just ever. And that is pretty amazing, That is pretty incredible. And just, to show that comparison. And we'll get to the X-Men stuff in a second, but the fact that it's already outgrossed every other R-rated film, which includes those Deadpool movies and even Logan, that's pretty amazing. You know what? Let's just dive into the X-Men one right now, because that's going to be pretty easy to like clear through as far as like the stats on that. Okay, so for X-Men, it has outgrossed X2 by $181 million, Logan by $169 million, Days of Future Past by $162, Last Stand by $161 million, Deadpool 2 by $71 million, and it's $32 million over the original Deadpool. So domestically, it's the highest grossing X-Men film, and then worldwide, as I said, total of $824 million. It's outgrossed The Last Stand by $365 million, Apocalypse by $282, Logan by $210, Days of Future Past by $77, Deadpool, the original Deadpool, by $43 million, and like I said, $38 million over Deadpool 2. So in both places, highest grossing X-Men film, highest grossing R-rated film ever, highest grossing X-Men related film ever. The Marvels doesn't count, but even if it did, it cleared it. I say that just because of like one post-credit scene in there. I guess maybe it would still have a challenge meeting up to Multiverse of Madness, but at this point it's like, it's going to clear it at any point. Which, now brings up a good segue point. Let's talk about where it ranks for both domestic and worldwide MCU listings. So it is outgrossed domestically, and here we go. Long-ass list. The Dark World, Thor the Dark World by $189 million, Quantumania by $181 million, Ant-Man and the Wasp $179 million, Shang-Chi $171 million, the original Doctor Strange by $163 million, The Winter Soldier by $136, Iron Man 2 $83, Ragnarok $80, original Iron Man $77, the original Guardians film $62, Spider-Man Homecoming $61 million, Love and Thunder by $52 million, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 by $37 million, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 by $6 million, and last but not least, Spider-Man Far From Home over it by 4 million, so it just squeaked by Far From Home in these last couple days, and Guardians Volume 2 at this point too. It now needs 13 million until it outgrosses the domestic runs for both Iron Man 3 and Captain America Civil War, so 2 films kind of, sitting at the same domestic number, so it's going to be clearing those soon, any second now, pretty much. And that was just the domestic list, we still have the worldwide one here for the MCU, which is 385 million over the original Thor, 361 million over Quantumania, 306 million over the first Ant-Man, 239 over the original Iron Man, 203 over Iron Man 2, 201 over Ant-Man and the Wasp, 180 million over the Dark World, Thor the Dark World, 148 million over Doctor Strange, original Doctor Strange, 110 over the Winter Soldier, 64 million over Love and Thunder, and 54 million over the original Guardians of the Galaxy, and now needs 21 million until it outgrosses Volume 3. So for the R rating lists and the X-Men lists, it's already at the top of the list. For the MCU one, although it's not quite there yet, there's still plenty of other films it needs to outgross. It is, blazing quite a trail here. You know what I mean? We will be seeing it pretty high up at the end of this whole thing, especially with a great hold like this, and, audiences have really enjoyed this. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it ends up. It is, and this is just a personal thing, don't read too much into it. Honestly, it's whatever. I don't care that much. But the fact that it did clear through Guardians of the Galaxy 3's entire domestic run, and it's about to clear through the worldwide run for Guardians 3, that's a little depressing, I gotta be. I like a lot of these movies listed here, and some of them I like more than Deadpool and Wolverine, but still it's like, man, Guardians 3 especially, like that's the best MCU movie right there. And I know some people might disagree, but for me personally, like that movie just speaks to me. I've rewatched it so many times and I love it every time. So it's just personal slight. It's a personal slight against me that Deadpool and Wolverine, a movie that I think is, I enjoyed watching, but maybe it's a little dumber. And maybe it doesn't quite get to me like, Guardians 3 especially did. It's just a little weird. That's all. It's just a little weird. I don't really have much more to add other than, yeah, we'll be seeing where else this goes, and the fact that next weekend it's kind of looking like it'll probably have another great hold and probably not move from number 1. It's just going to continue to dominate, so we'll see you there for that. Number 2 is Twisters, and last weekend I was saying the same thing, like it held over pretty well, now that it's opening with Deadpool and Wolverine here, but how's it going to do in the next weekend? I think that'll show. It held over really great this time around, only dropping about 30% or so from last weekend. It made $22 million this weekend. Now that adds to a domestic total of $195 million. It needs $46 million until it outgrosses the original film at this point. Worldwide, it is sitting at $274 million, so $221 million away from the original. It still has a little bit of ways to go until it doubles its, I'm going to say $155 million initial production budget. I know we were saying previously, like, ranges from 155, but some people say it's 200. Let's just go with, 155. It at that point needs 310 to double that budget. And they're inching closer in doing that. And obviously, if you look at the numbers here, the intake from the States, the US, that's really bumping up the overall worldwide total here. But that being said, whatever works, you know what I mean? Like, and the fact that it held over so well here too, it wasn't just like, well, it had a decent enough hold, but now it's kind of dropping off because people just want to see Deadpool and Wolverine again. It's that thing of like, well, some people want to go see Twisters again. And that's because it's, even though it is technically a legacy sequel, it's so far removed from like any references or like specific tie-ins from that original film. Just people can just go watch it. You know what I mean? And I don't know, that is kind of special, for an audience out there that, doesn't want to deal with the overcomplicated storytelling of long-running franchises. So I am very happy for this as well. Hopefully we'll be talking about how it has doubled its budget. And if it gets to 400 million worldwide, that will also be pretty great. We can say, if whichever number you want to do, if it's 155 million initial production budget, you believe it doubles it. If you believe it did cost 200 million, then it doubles it there too. Win-win situations. And number 3, we have Trap. I definitely thought this movie was going to do a little better than it ended up doing, just based off of like, it's M. Night Shyamalan, and he's kind of in this era now where like, people don't like immediately scoff of his name, and people will always, do that because they think they're the funniest guy. And hey, it's what a twist, it's, tired ass jokes that maybe were funny at a specific time, not necessarily anymore, you know what I mean? But I think there is a little bit more of a resurgence as far as like, well, this guy, he did Split, and I really like Split, he makes some entertaining stuff, like I enjoyed that Dave Bautista one he did and all that, so I was definitely hoping this would do a little bit better, but not a horrible debut. I guess we'll kind of see how it goes. On an initial production budget of $30 million, this opened to $15 million. Worldwide, it only bumps it up to $20 million as of right now, so we'll see how else it does in the coming weeks, if it is able to have not just, a significant hold, but at least a little bit of a bump from other territories, if it can double this $30 million initial production budget. For Blinding Edge Pictures, which is the M. Night Shyamalan production company, it did have an opening weekend $8 million over The Watchers, which was Ishana Night Shyamalan's film a couple months ago, and also $1 million over Knock at the Cabin, which is M. Night's last film. So, good, but it having an opening weekend $1 million below old also is kind of like, okay, we're kind of setting a trend here. Like, this is kind of like the range for like an M. Night Shyamalan movie to open. Maybe one day we'll get one where it gets in the 20s. At least, I'd like to see an M. Night one that opens and it's kind of like clear immediately, like, yes, this is a winner right here, instead of just like, well, it's doing decently, I guess, you know what I mean? As far as overall runs, domestically it needs $4 million until it outgrosses The Watchers, and then worldwide it needs $12 million until it outgrosses The Watchers. I'm thinking it's going to easily outgross The Watchers, you know what I mean? As far as like anything else on this list, if it's able to creep up above some other films that we weren't expecting it to, if it does have a solid hold, we'll see. I feel like the word of mouth surrounding this, though, is a bit more divisive. I had a fun time with it. You know what I mean? I had a fun time with this movie. That being said, I've seen the reactions online. It's a little split. Some people, are enjoying this like I did. Some people are saying like, yeah, I love M. Night and this is great. Other people are still like, I don't like M. Night, and, it's easy to make a joke out of because he's have, a history, especially in the Happening, Lady in the Water kind of era, Airbender era that he was in. And some people seeing the film and just saying like, it's so incredibly stupid. I don't even know what's going on. You know what I mean? So I don't know, as far as like its hold, and especially with like, not to get too much into predictions already, but with like Cuckoo opening up also, it's like, we got another horror movie, and, it's neon, and, Longlegs did well, and they've been playing the Cuckoo trailer before that, so some people must be aware of that. Hunter Schafer has a bit of a following, so who knows what kind of audience that'll be. I don't know how well that'll do, but I'm expecting like it might even do better than Trap on its second weekend, you know what I mean? Like, it'll take competition away, because Trap has a bit more of a divisive sting to it, but Cuckoo, for the most part, has some positive word of mouth that it's fun, blah, 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 so we'll see. Not a horrible debut, but I definitely wish it was a little better than it was. Number 4 is Despicable Me 4, making $11 million, adding to a domestic total of $313 million. It's still behind Minions by $23 million right now, so still a little ways to go till that. Worldwide, it is sitting at $752 million, so it needs $185 million until it outgrosses the Minions Rise of Gru. So there you go. Domestically, it needs to outgross the first Minions. Worldwide, the second one. Either way, it's still making bank. If they make $48 million more dollars, they will make 8 times their initial production budget of $100 million. So it doesn't matter for Illumination. They're good. You know what I mean? They don't care that Deadpool and Wolverine just blasted right through them. They're good with what they got, and I don't really have much more to add, so let's move on to number 5, which is Inside Out 2, making $6.7 million, adding to a domestic total of $626 million. We started talking about the all-time list last weekend, so domestically right now it did outgross The Last Jedi by $6 million and the original Avengers over 3, and it now needs $10 million until it outgrosses Barbie, and then it gets to number 11 on the all-time domestic run lists. Worldwide, it is sitting at $1.555 billion, so it has outgrossed Furious 7 by $44 million and the original Avengers by $40 million, now needs $91 million until it outgrosses 2019 Lion King's number 9 spot. But of course, with me saying that, yes, that is officially making Inside Out 2 the number 10 highest grossing worldwide run ever for any film. So there you go. It's already in the top 10. Domestically, still a little ways to go. Worldwide, it's already there, and, it's looking like it'll probably, at this rate, outgross 2019 Lion King. So Disney beating Disney, there you go. But this movie also has another great achievement. It successfully kicked out Harold and the Purple Crayon out of the top 5. I know the title of the video is M. Night Traps Harold out of the top 5, but it's like, really, these were so separate from each other. Really what's happened here is Inside Out 2 has kicked Zachary Levi in the balls. Harold made $6 million this weekend. Worldwide only bumps it up to $9 million, and this is on a budget of $40 million. Now, if you had a solid marketing push around this, if you really convinced a lot of families and kids that this was the, event kind of movie to see, after Deadpool and Wolverine, the older teens have had their fun, but like it's time to bring the families back with this. They did not convince any families, but if they did, maybe they would, have some kind of success and, make a modest profit off of a 40 million price tag. Not the case. Like, wow. I feel so bad about doing this, but we need to talk about the director, Chris Saldana. He's directed a lot of animated films prior to this, and as far as his opening weekends, this one is 7 million below his last film, Ferdinand, with John Cena, thus making it his lowest opening weekend of all time. It also needs 78 million until it outgrosses Ferdinand, which is his lowest grossing film in general. Worldwide, like I said, sitting at 9 million, it needs 251 million until it outgrosses his least grossing worldwide film, Robots. I was expecting Ferdinand 2, it's not. But, yikes. Yikes. Not a great debut for Harold, not a great move on Zachary Levi's part as far as like, Shazam is not coming back at this rate. It doesn't seem like it. It doesn't really seem like the Zachary Levi thing is really taking off. Back in 2019, it certainly seemed like it. Like, yeah, this Zachary Levi guy, let's give him more movies. And it doesn't really seem like, he's made the right choices to actually propel him upwards. It just seems like he's kind of stuck in familiar territory. Like, he replaced Mel Gibson in Chicken Run 2, but he also was in Spy Kids, Netflix Spy Kids. And now he's done this. And American Underdog, was that a movie he was in? Yeah, nothing to really like propel him forward, to like advance his career or like test what he could do with his own skill set, or really highlight, some other talents that we aren't really fully aware of, because some people don't remember that he voiced Flynn Rider in Tangled, or that he, has performed in, I don't know if it was necessarily Broadway, but like, theater productions. Like, he's the theater guy. And he's doing this. I don't know, man. It's kind of wild. Oh man, the Zachary Levi experiment has failed, I think. At number 7, we have Long Legs, making 4 million, adding to a domestic total of 66 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at 78 million, so 2 million away from making 8 times its at least 10 million initial production budget, which is fan-fucking-tastic. I did write here that it is now, like I said last week, and it's the highest grossing neon film domestically, but worldwide it is at number 2, because Parasite made a lot of money overseas, and Longlegs at this rate will not be able to catch up to that. But I did write here it needs 175 million until it outgrosses Parasite. Not necessarily a stat that is warranted or needed or necessary, but I just thought it'd be fun to mention. And I don't really have much more to add other than hell yeah. Number 8 is a movie called The Firing Squad. I saw this on the Fandango list, like what was coming out, and I was like, what is this? Is this a movie I need to see? Not only does it star Cuba Gooding Jr., it also stars Kevin Sorbo, which is like an immediate, no, pass. But it made 1.6 million. No worldwide total, no other domestic intakes. Not sure what the budget of this thing is. Just by this picture, because I haven't seen any, I saw the poster, and I'm looking at this picture. Maybe it's cheap as fuck. And it wouldn't surprise me. So maybe 1.6 million is fine for this movie. I don't know. Good luck to y'all. Anyways, number 9 is A Quiet Place Day 1, making 1.4 million, adding to a domestic total of 137 million. It's about to leave the top 10, it's looking like, especially with, 3 new releases coming out. It's probably going to get shoved out of here, but it, had a solid run. It's sitting behind A Quiet Place Part 2 by 23 million domestically, and then worldwide it's ending its run at 258 million. Sorry, ending its run for this video at least at 258 million, sitting behind A Quiet Place Part 2 by 38 million. So it is kind of interesting how, like, when this started, it was kind of like, highest opening for A Quiet Place ever, just by a slim margin, and it was kind of like, well, we'll see, you know what I mean, if it has that, continued momentum. And it's not that, it's ending on a flop, because like on a budget of 67 million, 258 in total is pretty damn fantastic. But it's like, I really thought, like, with the biggest opening for the franchise, this would eventually lead to, you know, getting closer than just 20 to 30 million away from the prior lower grossing one. Either way, though, you know, they're doing fine. They did fine with this one, so it's all good. It had a good run. Adios. Unless you're here next weekend, then, you know, welcome back. And then number 10, we have Bad Boys Ride or Die. This movie, man, this one also had quite a great run, making $600,000 this weekend, adding to a domestic total of 192 million. Worldwide, it is sitting at 398 million. So, look, domestically it's 12 million away from Bad Boys for Life. Worldwide, 26 million away from For Life. It's not gonna, you know, pick up speed once it exits the top 10 at this point. But that being said, it got close enough, outgrossed the Michael Bay ones, which I think is more important here. And it's, you know, maybe in these next couple weeks, it'll make that extra 2 million to quadruple that 100 million initial production budget. Either way, they've already tripled it, but it would just look good. You know what I mean? It would just look good. Like, oh, 400 million, exactly. Either way, yeah, great run, and you will be missed. Unless you're here. You never know. Like, Firing Squad might dip out of here, so Harold and the Purple Crayon might flop so hard that it just exits, and then Quiet Place or Bad Boys just comes back into the top 10. Like, well, more people came back for those movies instead of Harold and the Purple fucking Crayon. We'll see. Anyways, now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Number 1, I do think it will be Deadpool and Wolverine. And some of you might be thinking, number 2, you're going to predict Borderlands because that's like an action sci-fi movie that's based on a video game IP. Nope. I think number 2 will be It Ends With Us. I work in a bookstore. Colleen Hoover in general, like, not as much now, but like for a while, like a couple months ago into last year, that was a big fucking thing. People always asking for Colleen Hoover, Colleen Hoover, Colleen Hoover. I don't think this will be like the biggest movie. Like, I don't think it has the momentum right now to outpace Deadpool and Wolverine for the number 1 spot, but it wouldn't surprise me. I think it'll get like pretty neck and neck because there is like a genuine fan base for these books and for this one in particular. And I also know that there are people that fucking hate these books, especially this one. So we'll see what happens. But I think that definitely has a bit more of a drive, though, to make more money than my number 3 prediction, which is Borderlands. You know, outside of, obviously, there are fans of the game out there, and they might just see it out of more of a curiosity. But from what I understand, there are a lot of people that saw the casting of this and were like, man, you're fucking up already. Why is Kevin Hart playing this character who's like a much bigger dude in the games? Why is, you know, Cate Blanchett playing this character when the character's supposed to be younger? You know, stuff like that. So there are already fans out there that aren't too enthused by what they've already marketed, and I wouldn't even say that like the marketing has been like this grand thing of like, you gotta go see Borderlands, you know what I mean? It's kind of like it's kind of being treated like it's just another movie. Like it's just another thing that's kind of coming and maybe you can see it, I don't know. So I honestly, I don't think it will do that well. It wouldn't surprise me if this one, you know, did a little worse than what I'm expecting. But number 4, I think, will be Twisters, and then number 5, I think, will be Cuckoo. Maybe because of the success of Longlegs, more people will recognize this is another film from that distribution company. You know, Hunter Schafer from Euphoria, you know, popular show, popular name. Maybe that'll have a chance to pull a Longlegs and do much better than we're expecting. I'm going to pull it a little bit more modest for these predictions, though. But because of recent events with Longlegs, it would be so cool if Neon was able to get that started with another film. It definitely doesn't have like the viral kind of marketing campaign that Longlegs did. They tried to do some stuff recently, like Dan Stevens' character's LinkedIn is available to view, and they made a website for the resort that they're going to be staying at. So yeah, it's like they've got some going, but Longlegs, like, that lasted like in January. They attached the trailer to Night Swim, and they didn't even really fully release that trailer until much later. So there was already some hype, and then stuff they did online. So that one just had a really great marketing campaign. And then Cuckoo, you know, solid trailer, and then some other solid, like, you know, viral, in quotes, kind of marketing stuff. I'm not sure if it's enough to match what they did with Longlegs, but it would be cool if that happened, is all I'm saying. And I'm going to see this movie, and I'm hoping I love it because it looks great. Anyways, what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.